Port privatization, or private operations of port activities, has been a system which has gained great popularity in recent past. Before I go too far, let's take a moment to look at the importance of a port to a country. Ports are an essential part of the connection on international trade. It is often used as the main channel while also providing services of goods, transportation, and raw materials. Without a port, large parts of the economy of the world would be stuck. Ports that thrive in the Indian Ocean and the Red Sea are major trade routes and international supply chains. They are located in the oil and gas supply lines and the part of the plan of a new trade of routes created by China known as Belt and Road. Major ports in East Africa have the following capabilities in the TEU scale. 20-foot equivalents, as in 20-foot shipping containers being units of cargo of capacity at a port. To put this into perspective, let us look at Shanghai. Shanghai, what it does in 5 days, Dar es Salaam does in 1 year. What Shanghai does in 10 days, Mombasa does in 1 year. The 10 most significant ports in the world are found in 3 countries, China, Singapore, and Holland. Let's talk about what's going on back home. We're back though. Despite many African countries having port infrastructure, the operations and the efficiency of these ports has become a problem. This is due to the lack of modern equipment despite having a geographical advantage. As a continent, it is blessed with raw materials in abundance. Due to this fact, it has been an excellent stimulus for countries with resources and experience like Singapore, Netherlands, and China. Ports in Tanzania and Kenya face similar challenges such as congestion, outdated infrastructure, and competition from other ports in the region. Modern ports require accessibility and servicing ships with large containers and an ability to have economies of scale which affect international business. Basically, you can't be a big player in the trade and logistics game without infrastructure and the operation of large ports. African countries also open their doors for foreign investment, benefiting investors and owners. This is where privatization rears its head, like in countries like Kenya and Tanzania. The competition between the 2 East African countries and the battle to have a better port in the region reached the stage of the president of Tanzania having to explain to the general public that their neighbors presented to investors a more lucrative deal with more ports, so the contract had to be done in haste.
Wenzetu kwa kuona malumbano yetu mmeona wamejump wamekwenda kule kule na lile jumba lililowekwa bendera ya Tanzania limewekwa bendera ya jirani. Sasa Tanzania tumeuza, wale jirani wamekimbilia kule kufanya nini?
Approximately 95% of the ocean-related business in Tanzania is handled at the port of Dar es Salaam. The port serves 6 landlocked countries including Malawi, Zambia, Burundi, Rwanda, and Uganda. In Kenya, it was claimed to be the contract that would be signed would have the foreign investor manage the stations of KPA, as in Kenya Ports Authority, including the new port of Lamu.
Tuhakikishe ya kwamba vile tuna develop Mombasa, ndivyo tuna develop Lamu Port. Na tuko na soko kubwa ya Lamu Port kwa sababu tunataka kuunganisha Lamu na South Sudan pamoja na Ethiopia, vile ilikuwa imepangwa as a lapsed corridor.
The Mombasa port connects directly and connects with important ports of Western Europe, Asia, America, and Eastern countries. Mombasa also serves countries such as Uganda, Burundi, Rwanda, Eastern Congo, South Sudan, and Ethiopia.
Wenzetu Kenya wana bandari pia na sasa hivi na ufanisi zaidi kuliko bandari yetu na ni mshindani wetu.
The contract was set to be implemented in July 2022 and the government was required to make a request of recommendations before the August 2022 elections. Kenya turned to the private port operator to manage the port of Lamu. This was strongly opposed before the election.
Kwa nini wasiende kubinafsisha Kenya Airways ili ndege nyingine zije kuingia hapa Mombasa? Tukianza kuzungumza habari ya ndege kuweza kutua katika Mombasa, tunaambiwa ya kwa Kenya Airways inaangaliwa, lakini leo wanataka kubinafsisha Kenya Ports Authority. What is the take of the county of Mombasa in this whole transaction? Hawa watu wa Mombasa hawezi kubeba kiholela kuholela.
The country is now back to discussing new agreements altogether. Many international countries have made their aspirations a reality of handling ports in Africa, including China, who have a total of 12 in the continent. In Tanzania, with a proposal to take over operations of the main port of Dar es Salaam and having to go back to the drawing board, foreign investors were treated as a nuisance when certain parts of the port agreement were claimed to have been hidden from the public, and great criticism was made about the investor and its business model for a long time. There's been a mission to operate the port in Southeast and the Horn of Africa from these foreign investors. Moreover, the foreign investors have started a dry port operation with the example of a port in Rwanda, whose opening launch was by the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, of a large center that handles cargo in the country. However, despite the efficiency and experience of a long-term foreign countries in operating ports in modern ways, recently the projects have faced opposition from civil society and politicians in East African countries after they were criticized due to discrepancies and several legal problems, including allegations of giving bribes to obtain tenders to run some of these ports. Last month, the Tanzanian government signed an agreement with DP World that will enable the company to operate part of the port. This step comes after the government said it has made adjustments to some of the agreements that were deemed problematic at first. Some of these changes include the government taking 60% of income or profit made, and also the process of reviewing work and contract executions every 5 years. French operators from the Bolloré Group, also known as Africa Group Logistics, have received backlash on how they acquired some of the contracts to control some of the ports, selling their large African shipping branches to MSC in West Africa. And they are still in the port and shipping game that side of the continent. In Tanzania, in September this year, the Zanzibar government entrusted Africa Global Logistics, the same French one, to run and manage the Zanzibar ports. The ports of Malindi are now run from Zanzibar Ports Corporation to increase income and efficiency in the islands. The cost of building the port is estimated to be $220,000 and ZPC will be getting 30% of any money made. Economies of scale and concentration contribute to keeping internal local operators at a disadvantage. Large port operators always have relationships with enough ships that they understand the environment and have the finances to go with it. On the other hand, strategically, countries can quickly turn into transportation hubs by benefiting from some of these advantages they can take through the experience of these foreign investors. In the 50 largest ports in the world, Tangier, Morocco is the only one in Africa. This is enough of a sign that Africa is behind with regards to infrastructure that gives muscle in international trade.